What if I told you that the biggest mistake most new investors make happens before they buy a single stock? It isn't choosing the wrong company. It isn't buying at the wrong time. It isn't even losing money. The biggest mistake is believing that investing is only for experts. People imagine rooms filled with complicated charts, fast-moving numbers, and people speaking a language they don't understand. So they tell themselves, I'll learn someday. Then weeks become months. Months become years. And while they wait, time quietly walks away with one thing they can never earn back. By the end of this video, you'll see investing in a completely different way. You'll understand why some people slowly build wealth over decades, while others work just as hard but never seem to get ahead. More importantly, you'll learn the beginner mistakes that trap millions of people and how to avoid them before they cost you years of progress. Imagine two neighbors. They are both 25 years old. They have similar jobs. They earn almost the same salary. They drive similar cars and shop at the same grocery store. From the outside, their lives look nearly identical. But 40 years later, one of them has enough money to retire comfortably. The other still worries about every monthly bill. What happened? Most people think the wealthy neighbor must have earned a much higher salary. Sometimes that's true. But often the difference comes from a handful of decisions made very early in life. Small choices, quiet choices, choices that hardly looked important at the time. That's one of the biggest lessons Warren Buffett has shared throughout his life. Building wealth is usually less about finding one amazing investment and more about making many sensible decisions over a long period. That sounds almost too simple. Yet simple does not mean easy. Imagine planting an apple tree in your backyard. On the first day, nothing changes. After 1 month, it still doesn't look impressive. Even after a year, it may only produce a few apples. If someone judged the tree after 12 months, they might decide planting it was a waste of time. But trees don't reward impatience. 10 years later, that same tree can produce hundreds of apples every season with very little effort from the person who planted it. Good investing works much the same way. The hardest part is believing that today's small actions can create tomorrow's big results. Most beginners never reach that stage because they make a mistake almost immediately. They expect investing to feel exciting. Movies have taught us that successful investors spend their days shouting into phones, buying and selling every minute, and making fortunes overnight. Reality is much quieter. In fact, Warren Buffett has often said that the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Think about those words for a moment. Not from the less intelligent, not from the less educated, not from the unlucky, from the impatient. That single idea has helped shape one of the greatest investing careers in history. But why is patience so valuable? Imagine owning a small bakery in your neighborhood. Every morning, customers line up before the doors open. They buy fresh bread, cakes, and coffee. The bakery earns a little money every day. Some days are better than others. Sometimes business slows down because of bad weather. Sometimes a nearby festival brings hundreds of extra customers. Now imagine someone walks into your bakery every afternoon and offers to buy it. On Monday, they offer $500,000. On Tuesday, they offer $450,000. Wednesday, they offer $540,000. Thursday, they offer $470,000. Friday, they offer $10,000. Would these changing offers affect how many customers visit your bakery? Would they change the quality of your bread? Would your oven suddenly stop working because someone offered a lower price? Of course not. The bakery is still the same business. Only the offers have changed. This simple example explains something that confuses many beginners. When you own part of a business through shares of stock, the market gives you new prices every day. Many people become obsessed with those prices. Buffett focuses on the business instead. If the bakery continues attracting customers and earning money year after year, temporary price changes don't change its true value. Almost nobody thinks this way at first. Instead, beginners often stare at stock prices every few minutes. If prices rise, they feel brilliant. If prices fall, they feel terrified. But notice something interesting. Nothing about the actual business may have changed. Only the number on the screen has changed. Imagine walking past the same family restaurant every Saturday. Year after year, more tables are filled. More families are eating there. The owner expands the dining area because demand keeps growing. The restaurant introduces new menu items, and customers keep returning. Now imagine someone tells you the value of that restaurant fell by 20% this week. Would you stop believing it was a good business? Probably not. You can see the customers with your own eyes. The lesson is simple. Businesses create wealth. Prices simply move around them. Understanding this difference may be one of the most important steps any beginner can take. Let's look at a company almost everyone knows. Coca-Cola sells billions of drinks every year. People buy its products in airports, restaurants, supermarkets, sports stadiums, and tiny roadside shops all over the world. Now ask yourself a simple question. When someone buys a bottle of Coca-Cola, do they care what the company's stock price was that morning? Not at all. The customer simply wants a cold drink. That is what makes a real business powerful. It continues serving customers whether investors are excited or afraid. This way of thinking helped Buffett become one of Coca-Cola's largest long-term shareholders. He wasn't trying to predict next week's price. He believed the business would continue serving millions of customers for many years. Notice the difference. One approach focuses on guessing. The other focuses on understanding. Beginners often believe successful investing is about making accurate predictions. Experienced investors spend much more time asking better questions. Is this a business people will still need 10 years from now? Does it make products people genuinely enjoy? Does it earn money consistently? Can it continue growing without taking unnecessary risks? Those questions matter far more than trying to guess what the market will do next Tuesday. Now let's talk about another mistake that quietly hurts millions of beginners: confusing saving with investing. At first, they sound almost identical. Both involve putting money aside. Both require discipline. Both help prepare for the future. But they are not the same. Imagine filling a bucket with water. Saving is like pouring water into the bucket. Investing is like planting seeds that grow into new buckets over time. Saving creates security. Investing creates growth. You need both. Many people become excellent savers, but never become investors. They work hard, spend less than they earn, and slowly build a larger bank balance. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, having emergency savings is one of the smartest financial decisions anyone can make. But there is another problem waiting quietly in the background. Inflation. That word sounds complicated, but the idea is something you've experienced many times. Think about your favorite grocery store. A loaf of bread that cost $2 years ago may cost $3 today. The same thing happens with milk, eggs, coffee, rent, movie tickets, and hundreds of everyday items. Prices slowly rise over time. Your money doesn't physically shrink. A $100 bill is still a $100 bill. But what that money can buy becomes a little smaller each year. Imagine freezing a loaf of bread for 30 years. When you take it out, it probably won't be very useful. Money sitting still for decades can lose buying power in a similar way. That's why Buffett encourages people to own productive assets. A productive asset is simply something that has the ability to create more value over time. A farm grows crops. A rental home can produce rent. A successful business earns profits. These assets have the chance to grow while inflation slowly pushes prices higher. Now think about one of the most valuable businesses ever built. Apple doesn't become valuable because people trade its shares every day. It becomes valuable because millions of people willingly buy its products and services. Every phone sold, every computer purchased, every subscription renewed represents customers choosing to spend money with the business. That's where long-term value comes from. Customers, not headlines, not excitement, not rumors. Beginners often spend hours reading predictions about the market while spending only a few minutes learning how businesses actually make money. Buffett has spent much of his life doing the opposite. He studies businesses. He asks simple questions. Would I be happy owning this company if the stock market closed for the next 10 years? That question changes everything. Imagine buying a small coffee shop. After signing the papers, someone tells you the market is closed for 5 years. You can't sell the shop. Would you panic? Only if you bought it for the wrong reason. If the coffee shop keeps welcoming customers every morning, serving great drinks, paying its employees, and earning steady profits, the temporary inability to sell doesn't really matter. You're still receiving the benefits of owning a productive business. Thinking this way removes much of the fear that traps beginners. Instead of asking, can I sell this for more next month? You begin asking, will this business still be stronger years from now? Those are very different questions. And they usually lead to very different decisions. This brings us to another beginner mistake that rarely gets enough attention. Believing that every opportunity must be taken. Imagine walking through a supermarket while you're hungry. Suddenly, everything looks tempting. You fill your cart with snacks, desserts, frozen meals, and drinks you never planned to buy. Later, you realize most of those purchases were unnecessary. The same thing happens in investing. Every day, someone claims they have found the next big opportunity. A friend talks about a hot stock. A video promises easy riches. A headline says a company will change the world. The pressure to act can feel overwhelming. But Buffett has never believed that activity equals success. He has often explained that investing is not a game where you have to swing at every pitch. Instead, you can wait patiently for an opportunity that truly makes sense. Think about baseball for a moment. A batter usually has to swing before 3 strikes. An investor doesn't. You can watch hundreds of opportunities pass by without making a single decision. There is no penalty for waiting. In fact, waiting is often one of the most profitable decisions you can make. Many beginners lose money not because they lack intelligence, but because they feel they must always be doing something. Sometimes the smartest move is simply to keep learning while your savings continue growing. That may not sound exciting, but wealth is rarely built through constant excitement. It is usually built through calm, thoughtful decisions repeated over many years. And that leads to another lesson that surprises almost everyone the first time they hear it. Sometimes the biggest investing mistake isn't buying the wrong business at all. It's buying a wonderful business for the wrong reason. That simple idea changed the way Warren Buffett invested forever, and the story behind it is where we'll go next. Imagine walking through your town every weekend for the next 10 years. On one street, there is a small clothing store. Every few months, the display in the window changes. Sometimes the shop is busy. Sometimes it is completely empty. A few years later, the business closes and a different store takes its place. Now walk a little farther. There is another business. Every Saturday morning, families are already waiting outside before the doors open. The parking lot is full. The employees know many customers by name. Children who visited with their parents years ago now bring their own children. The business has quietly become part of people's lives. If you had the chance to own one of these businesses, which would you choose? The answer seems obvious. You would probably choose the business that has earned people's trust year after year. Yet, something strange happens when people begin investing. Instead of looking for businesses they already understand and admire, many beginners become fascinated by companies they cannot explain. They buy shares because someone online promised huge returns. They hear exciting words about the next big thing. But if you ask how the company actually earns money, they have no idea. Warren Buffett has spent decades avoiding that mistake. One of his most important ideas is something he calls staying inside your circle of competence. That sounds complicated, but the idea is wonderfully simple. Imagine someone asks you to judge a baking competition. If you've spent years baking bread, cakes, and cookies, you can probably tell which loaf is well made and which one isn't. Now, imagine the next competition is about building airplane engines. Would you suddenly become an expert? Being smart in one area doesn't automatically make you smart in another. Investing works the same way. You don't have to understand every business. You only need to understand the ones you choose to own. Think about your favorite local barber. You know why customers keep coming back. The barber is friendly. The service is reliable. People leave happy. That business is easy to understand. Now imagine someone asks you to invest in a company making highly specialized equipment using technology you've never heard of. You cannot explain what it does. You don't know who buys its products. You don't know why customers choose it over competitors. Buying that business would be like buying a house without ever walking through the front door. Buffett has never felt embarrassed about saying, "I don't know." In fact, that simple sentence has saved him from countless bad investments. Many beginners think successful investors always have an opinion. The best investors know when not to have one. There is another lesson hiding inside that idea. Imagine you're taking an exam. One student answers every single question, even when guessing. Another student only answers the questions they understand. Who usually scores higher? The second student. Investing rewards the same behavior. You don't need to chase every opportunity. You only need a few good decisions made with care. This patient approach became even more powerful after Buffett met one man who completely changed the way he thought about investing. That man was Benjamin Graham, often called the father of value investing. Early in his career, Buffett looked for businesses that were simply cheap. Imagine finding an old bicycle at a garage sale. It's scratched, the tires are worn, the paint is faded, but it's so inexpensive that you think, why not? Sometimes that works. Sometimes the bicycle keeps breaking down and you spend more fixing it than buying a better one in the first place. Businesses can be like that too. A cheap business isn't always a good business. Over time, Buffett learned something even more valuable. It is often better to buy a wonderful business at a fair price than a poor business at a bargain price. That lesson sounds simple, but it changed everything. Imagine two apartment buildings. The first is extremely cheap because the roof leaks, the plumbing constantly fails, and tenants move out every few months. The second costs more, but families stay for years. The building is clean. Repairs are rare. Rent is paid on time. Which building would you rather own for the next 20 years? Most people would happily pay more for the better property. The same thinking applies to businesses. A great company keeps creating value long after the purchase is forgotten. This brings us to one of Buffett's most famous investments. See's Candies wasn't the largest candy company in America. It didn't invent chocolate. It didn't own thousands of factories, but people loved its products. Customers returned year after year, especially during holidays and special occasions. Many families made buying See's Candies part of their traditions. That loyalty mattered. Imagine owning a small bakery that makes the best birthday cakes in town. Parents trust you. Grandparents recommend you. Every celebration brings customers back. Could you slowly increase your prices over the years without losing everyone? Probably, because people aren't only buying flour, sugar, and butter. They're buying trust. They're buying memories. They're buying quality. That is the kind of business Buffett loves. A business that customers happily return to without being forced. Almost nobody notices this when they first start investing. Beginners often focus on products. Experienced investors focus on customers. Products change. Customer trust can last for generations. Look at McDonald's. Millions of people know exactly what to expect before they even walk inside. Whether someone visits in one city or another, the experience feels familiar. That consistency has tremendous value. Now, think about Costco. Many people don't simply shop there because prices are low. They trust the company. They believe they're receiving good value. Some customers renew their memberships year after year without even thinking about it. That kind of loyalty creates a business that becomes stronger over time. Buffett pays close attention to these patterns. He isn't searching for excitement. He's searching for durability. Now let's talk about a mistake that almost every beginner makes at least once: watching everyone else. Imagine sitting in a restaurant. A waiter places a delicious meal in front of another customer. Suddenly you wonder if you ordered the wrong thing. Even if you were happy moments ago, you begin questioning yourself. People do exactly this with investing. A friend says they doubled their money. Someone online claims they found an incredible opportunity. A television expert predicts huge gains. Without realizing it, people stop thinking for themselves. They begin copying strangers. That feeling has a name: fear of missing out. It has emptied more wallets than most people realize. Imagine hearing that everyone in your neighborhood is buying houses painted bright purple because someone says purple homes will soon become much more valuable. Would you immediately repaint your house? Probably not. You would ask questions. Why would color suddenly matter? Who started this idea? Does it even make sense? Those same questions belong in investing. Whenever everyone seems excited about the same thing, slow down. Excitement spreads much faster than careful thinking. Buffett has often reminded investors to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. That doesn't mean always doing the opposite of the crowd. It means refusing to let the crowd do your thinking for you. Imagine visiting a farmer's market just before closing time. Some sellers lower prices because they don't want it to carry produce home. Now imagine everyone suddenly rushes toward one fruit stand, paying twice the normal price simply because others are buying. Would you join them without asking why? Hopefully not. Markets sometimes behave exactly like that. Prices can become disconnected from reality because emotions take over. The people who stay calm usually make better decisions. This leads to another mistake beginners rarely notice. They confuse a great company with a great investment. Those are not always the same thing. Imagine your favorite neighborhood restaurant. The food is incredible. The service is excellent. Customers love it. But someone asks you to pay $10 million for it. Would it still be a good investment? Not necessarily. Even wonderful businesses can become poor investments if you pay far too much. Price always matters. Think about buying a car. Finding the perfect car doesn't mean you should pay 3 times its value. The same idea applies to businesses. A fantastic company bought at an unreasonable price can disappoint investors for years. That's why Buffett spends so much time thinking before buying. He isn't simply asking, is this business wonderful? He's also asking, am I paying a sensible price? Those two questions belong together. Another lesson surprises many people. Sometimes the best investment decision happens before money ever leaves your bank account. Imagine buying a family home. Would you spend 5 minutes looking at photographs and immediately sign the papers? Of course not. You would inspect the house, you would ask questions, you would check the neighborhood, you would think about the future. Yet many beginners spend more time choosing a new phone than choosing a business to own. That difference matters. Research doesn't guarantee success, but it greatly reduces avoidable mistakes. Buffett has always been known for reading reports, newspapers, annual letters, business information. Not because reading is exciting, because understanding comes before confidence. Imagine trying to assemble a 1,000-piece puzzle. The more pieces you find, the clearer the picture becomes. Investing works the same way. Every fact helps you understand the business a little better. Then comes another beginner mistake that quietly destroys good decisions. Impatience after buying. Imagine planting a garden. You water the seeds on Monday. Nothing happens. Tuesday, still nothing. Wednesday, you dig them up to see whether they're growing. What happens? You ruin the very process you were hoping to speed up. Many investors do something similar. They buy shares on Monday and expect dramatic results by Friday. When nothing exciting happens, they become disappointed. Great businesses often grow quietly, year after year. One satisfied customer becomes 100. 100 become 1,000. One store becomes 10. 10 become 100. The progress seems slow until you look back. Then suddenly the change feels remarkable. This is one reason Buffett has often preferred holding businesses for many years. He understands that time allows strong businesses to do what they do best. Serve customers, earn profits, expand carefully, build trust, repeat. None of that happens overnight, but something fascinating begins to appear once you truly understand this way of thinking. You stop asking, how quickly can I make money? Instead, you begin asking a much better question. What kind of business would I be proud to own for the next 20 years? That single question changes nearly every investment decision that follows. And once you start thinking like an owner instead of a trader, another powerful force begins working quietly in your favor. A force so powerful that Albert Einstein is often popularly credited with calling it the eighth wonder of the world, even though there is no reliable evidence he actually said those exact words. Whether he said it or not, Warren Buffett built much of his fortune by understanding it better than almost anyone else. That force is compounding, and once you truly see how it works, you'll never look at time, money, or investing the same way again. The biggest investing mistakes aren't usually made in a single day. They're made through small decisions repeated over many years. The good news is that the same is true for building wealth. Every smart choice you make today can quietly shape a better financial future tomorrow. You don't need to predict the market. You don't need to be a genius. You simply need to keep learning, think like a business owner, and let patience work in your favor. If you enjoyed learning timeless investing lessons explained in simple English, subscribe to Wealth Unlocked. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.